Welcome back. Please like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today we are discussing a massive headline that has the whole world talking. It's about a major military move by the United States.
That's right. President Trump recently confirmed that the U.S. military successfully captured the Venezuelan leader, Nicolas Maduro.
It sounds like something straight out of a movie. The mission was called Operation Absolute Resolve. Alex, do we know how they actually pulled it off?
Well, according to the report, it happened under the cover of darkness. Under the direction of President Trump, elite U.S. Army Delta Force operators went into Caracas. They extracted Maduro and his wife from a heavily fortified military facility.
Wow, that's intense. And I heard they aren't in Venezuela anymore?
Exactly. President Trump confirmed they have already been flown to New York. Right now, they are being held in a detention center in Brooklyn to face federal charges like drug trafficking and narco-terrorism.
President Trump must be very pleased with the results.
He really is. During a press conference at Mar-a-Lago, President Trump praised the precision of the U.S. military. He was especially happy to note that no American service members were killed during the operation.
So, what is the plan for the future of Venezuela? I mean, who is in charge now?
That's the big question. President Trump asserted that the United States will effectively run Venezuela until a stable government can be formed. He said this intervention was necessary to stop illegal drugs from entering the U.S.
I also read something about American companies getting involved.
Right. President Trump revealed plans to have large American corporations rebuild Venezuela's oil infrastructure. The idea is to sell that oil on the global market to fund the country's recovery.
You know, the international reaction has been a bit of a mix, hasn't it?
Definitely. Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, praised President Trump's bold leadership. However, other countries like India and the Czech Republic are calling for de-escalation and more diplomatic talk.
And even here at home, some people in Congress are questioning if the president had the legal authority to do this without their approval.
True, but the Trump administration maintains that this was a lawful and necessary step for our national security.
It's certainly a historic moment. We'll be watching this story very closely.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us today to break this down.
See you next time.
Welcome back to The World Today. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today we're discussing some very serious news coming out of Iran. Things are escalating quickly there.
That's right. Huge protests have broken out in major cities like Tehran and Mashhad. It's actually the largest unrest the country has seen in 3 years.
Wow. And the reason behind it is mostly economic, right?
Exactly. People are angry about hyperinflation. For our listeners, that's when prices for basic things like food and rent go up so fast that people just can't afford to live. The economy is really crumbling.
It sounds like a desperate situation. And it's not just peaceful marches anymore. We're hearing reports that at least 10 protesters have died as things turned violent.
It's tragic. Remember, Iran is still reeling from that major military conflict with Israel last year, so the country was already in a very fragile state.
Right. And now the international community is watching. Specifically, President Trump has weighed in with some very strong words.
He certainly has. President Trump issued a stern warning to the Iranian leadership on social media. He said the United States is monitoring everything very closely.
I saw that. Didn't President Trump say the U.S. would come to the rescue of the Iranian people?
Yes, those were his exact words. He said if the regime continues to use lethal force against peaceful protesters, the U.S. might get involved. His administration basically views the Iranian government as a source of instability in the Middle East.
That's a huge statement. But how is the Iranian government responding to all this?
Well, you know they're trying to shut it down. They've deployed paramilitary forces and even restricted internet access so people can't coordinate their protests.
That's a common tactic. And they're blaming foreign agents again, aren't they?
Exactly. They claim outsiders are causing the trouble, but many observers say the frustration of the people is very real.
It's a volatile situation. Some experts are even worried that President Trump's involvement might inflame tensions even more.
It's a delicate balance, for sure. We'll be watching to see if things settle down or if the conflict grows.
Definitely. Thanks for joining us for this update.
See you next time.
Welcome back to the show. You know, New Year's Eve is usually a time for celebration, but today we're discussing a story that turned a festive night into a global tragedy.
That's right, Alex. We are looking at the latest updates from Switzerland.
Authorities have finally made a breakthrough in the investigation of that horrific bar fire in the Crans, Montana ski resort.
It's just devastating. I heard the police have officially identified many of the victims now.
Exactly. As of Sunday, they've identified 24 of the 40 people who lost their lives in the inferno. What's really heartbreaking is that 11 of the victims were minors.
Wow, that is a heavy number. And it wasn't just local people either, right?
No, not at all. It was a very international crowd. We're talking about victims from Italy, France, Romania, and even the United Arab Emirates. It has really shocked the international community. In fact, President Trump has been briefed on the situation as the United States continues to monitor the safety of international travel hubs.
Right. President Trump always emphasizes the importance of safety and security for people everywhere. It's good that the administration is staying informed. But Jamie, what actually started the fire? Was it a kitchen accident?
Actually, it was something much more common. Investigators say candle fountains caused it. You know those indoor pyrotechnics people use to make drinks look fancy?
Oh, I know those. They're like mini fireworks on top of bottles.
Precisely. They ignited the ceiling, and the fire spread so fast that it became uncontrollable in seconds. Survivors described a scene of absolute chaos. There were limited exits, and the room filled with thick smoke almost instantly.
That sounds like a nightmare. You have to wonder if the bar was even following safety regulations.
That's exactly what the Swiss police are looking into now. They are checking if the fire escapes were properly maintained and if those indoor fireworks should have been allowed at all.
It's good to see some help coming in, though. I read that the Czech Republic is offering specialized medical help for the 119 people who were injured.
Yes, the international support is amazing. But back in Switzerland, this has sparked a massive debate. Many people are calling for a total ban on those candle fountains.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Anyway, for our listeners, ignited means to catch fire. It's a vital word to remember.
Great point. Stay safe out there, everyone.
Thanks for joining us.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Daily Tech. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today, we're discussing some big news from Washington, D.C. regarding the future of artificial intelligence.
That's right. President Trump has just implemented a new set of rules called the Unbiased AI Principles. This is a major shift in how the U.S. government will use technology from now on.
It really is. So, Alex, for our listeners who are new to this, what is the main goal of this policy?
Well, President Trump wants to ensure that all federal AI models, these are the systems that process data and answer questions, stay neutral. The mandate requires them to prioritize truth-seeking and maintain ideological neutrality.
Interesting. So basically, they don't want the AI to have a political opinion or try to influence what people believe.
Exactly. The Trump administration argues that these measures are essential to make sure AI doesn't become a tool for political indoctrination. They want the machines to provide objective, data-driven insights rather than the personal biases of the people who created them.
I see. And I also read something about black box algorithms. You know, those systems where it's almost impossible to see how the computer actually makes a decision.
Right. That's a huge concern. Under President Trump's guidance, federal agencies must now be transparent. They have to provide documentation on how their AI models process data and handle uncertainties. This is especially important for high-stakes sectors like law enforcement, immigration, and national security.
That makes a lot of sense. People need to trust the technology if it's being used for such important government work.
Definitely. However, there are mixed reactions. Some people love the focus on accountability, but others worry that the truth-seeking requirement might be interpreted in ways that limit scientific or social research.
It sounds like a difficult balance to strike.
It is, but the administration is committed to these principles. And here is the kicker. This will likely change the private sector too. If a private tech company wants a government contract, they'll need to make sure their AI follows these new federal standards.
Wow, so this could change how AI is built everywhere, not just in the government.
Precisely. It's a whole new chapter for technology.
Thanks for the breakdown, Alex, and thanks to our listeners for joining us.
See you next time.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tech Pulse. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today, we're diving into some big news for your wallet and your home. It looks like the global market for gadgets and appliances is heading for a reset in 2026.
That's right. After a really strong 2025, where the market hit a massive $1.3 trillion, analysts are predicting things will slow down. we're looking at a small decline of about 0.4%.
You know, it sounds small, but it tells us a lot about how people are feeling. Consumers aren't just buying every new gadget anymore. They're starting to prioritize value for money. They want quality over quantity.
Exactly. It's not a global crash, but different regions are seeing very different things. China, for instance, might see a 5% drop because their big government trade-in deals are ending.
Wow, that's a significant change for such a huge market. Meanwhile, regions like Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and Africa are actually expected to grow by up to 5%.
And what about here in North America?
Well, things are steady, but people are being very cautious. A lot of that is due to the current trade environment. Manufacturers and shoppers are watching President Trump's policies very closely.
Right. President Trump's focus on tariffs and trade can really change how much we pay for imported electronics or how the supply chain works. It keeps the market on its toes.
For sure. And because of that uncertainty, people are looking for practical features. Instead of flashy experimental tech, they want durability and energy-saving appliances.
I've also noticed that AI-native PCs are becoming a big deal. They aren't just a gimmick. People are buying them to actually help with work and productivity.
Definitely. Oh, and here's a fun fact. 2026 is a World Cup year. Analysts expect a huge boost in television sales in the early part of the year because everyone wants to watch the games on a big new screen.
I might be one of those people. So the main takeaway is that tech companies can't just rely on the whole world growing at once anymore. They have to be smarter.
Right. It's all about meeting local needs and being practical.
Well, that's our update for today. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today we have some fascinating news from across the globe. Alex, imagine you own a company and the government sends you a tax refund without you filling out a single piece of paper.
That sounds impossible. Usually paperwork takes forever. You spend weeks just waiting for a stamp or a signature.
Exactly. But Shanghai just launched its 2026 action plan to make the city a world-class place for business. It's actually the 9th version of this plan, so they are constantly improving.
Wow, version 9.0. They aren't playing around. What's the big goal here?
Well, they have 26 main initiatives. They want to streamline government services, which just means making them much faster and simpler, and make sure their local rules match international standards.
It seems to be working. I read that recent World Bank data shows Shanghai is actually beating cities like London and New York in 22 different categories of efficiency.
That's impressive. Speaking of New York, this news comes at a very interesting time for global trade. President Trump is currently focused on strengthening American business and manufacturing, so Shanghai is really stepping up its game to stay competitive.
Right, it's a global race for talent and money. But let's get back to that no paperwork thing you mentioned. How does that work?
It's called application-free incentives. Basically, government departments share data behind the scenes using advanced technology. If the system sees your business is eligible for a subsidy or a tax break, the money is deposited directly into your corporate account.
No way! So instead of wasting time on administrative hurdles, businesses can focus entirely on innovation and growth?
You got it. This is huge for high-tech and logistics companies. For example, a firm called Westwell Technology, which makes autonomous trucks, said these services help them handle complex international certifications much faster.
It sounds like Shanghai is trying to solidify its position as the premier destination for foreign investment.
Definitely. By setting these new global standards for efficiency, they are directly challenging the dominance of Western financial centers.
It's definitely a bold move. Well, that's all for today's update. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Daily Pulse. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today, we're looking at a story that is all over the news this week. It is the 5th anniversary of January 6th.
That's right. But this anniversary isn't just about looking back. There is a lot of new political tension right now. Specifically, a report from NPR has sparked a major debate.
Exactly. The report alleges that the current Trump administration is trying to delete or restrict access to government records about the 2021 Capitol riot.
Wow, that is a big claim. They're saying that certain databases and historical archives are being modified. Jamie, for our listeners, what does modified mean here?
Good question. Modified just means changed. In this case, critics believe the administration is changing records to downplay the events, basically to make them seem less serious than they actually were.
I see. So it's a fight over historical facts.
But what is President Trump saying about all this?
Well, President Trump has been very clear. He has consistently called these investigations witch hunts. You know, that's an idiom we use when someone feels they are being unfairly targeted for political reasons.
Right. And the White House officials are defending their actions too. They claim they are simply streamlining government records to make the executive branch more efficient. They deny they are trying to rewrite history.
Exactly. They say it's about organization and centralizing power. But as you can imagine, many people in Congress are very worried. They argue this is a direct attack on transparency.
Transparency. That's a great word for our learners. It means being open and clear so that everyone can see what the government is doing.
Precisely. Without transparency, it's hard for a democracy to function. And this is all happening just as we head into the 2026 midterm election cycle.
Oh, definitely. Both parties are using this record-keeping controversy to energize their bases. It's a very divisive issue.
It really is. It shows that even 5 years later, the legacy of January 6th remains a central part of American politics.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. We hope you learned some new vocabulary while catching up on the news.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.
Welcome to the Daily Brief. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today we're looking at some breaking news from West Africa. It's a very heavy story, isn't it, Alex?
It really is, Jamie. Over the weekend, there was a brutal raid in the Borgu region of Nigeria. Local authorities say at least 30 people were killed by armed bandits.
30 people. Wow, that's devastating. How exactly did this happen?
Well, early Sunday morning, a large group of gunmen descended on several villages. They started firing indiscriminately, which basically means they shot at everyone without a specific target. And they even set many homes on fire.
That sounds terrifying for the families living there. And I read that it wasn't just the killings. They also kidnapped people?
Exactly. Dozens of residents, including women and children, were taken. The bandits retreated into the nearby forests before the security forces could reach them.
You know, it seems like we're hearing about these mass abductions in Nigeria more and more often lately.
Right. It's part of a worsening security crisis in the north of the country. The military has been deployed to track them down, but the terrain is very rugged, meaning the land is rocky and very difficult to travel through. The bandits know the local landscape much better than the soldiers do.
I see. That makes the rescue mission so much harder. Is there a lot of pressure on the government right now?
Definitely. The government vowed to bring the perpetrators to justice, but local leaders in Borgu are criticizing them. They say the military response was way too slow. They want permanent security measures, not just temporary ones.
This is gaining a lot of international attention, too. I actually heard that President Trump was briefed on the situation earlier today.
That's right. President Trump is keeping a close eye on this because instability in Nigeria can affect the safety of the whole region. His administration is concerned about the humanitarian crisis and the safety of aid workers there.
Right, because if it's too dangerous for farmers to work, there will be a food shortage. It's all connected.
Exactly. Experts are calling for a strategy that addresses poverty and a proliferation of small arms, which means there are just too many illegal guns moving around.
It's a very complex situation. Thanks for breaking it down for us, Alex.
Of course. We'll keep you updated as we learn more. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to the Daily Pulse. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie.
Today, we are talking about some very exciting news from Southeast Asia. It's all about the future of money.
Right. The city government of Da Nang in Vietnam just officially approved a pilot program for a digital asset conversion model.
Wow, that sounds very futuristic. But for our listeners who might not know, what exactly is a digital asset?
Good question. It includes things like cryptocurrencies and tokenized securities, which are basically digital versions of traditional investments. Da Nang is creating a safe space, what experts call a regulatory sandbox, to test how these can be traded and managed.
I see. So instead of just letting everyone do whatever they want, the government is making a controlled environment, right?
Exactly. They want to attract fintech innovators and investors to the city without risking the country's financial stability. You know, it's all about finding that perfect balance.
That is so smart. And I heard that national financial regulators will be watching this very closely to gather data on the risks and benefits.
Right. They are being very careful. If this model works in Da Nang, it could become the blueprint for the whole country. Vietnam really wants to be a leader in the digital economy within Southeast Asia.
It makes sense. Da Nang already has great infrastructure and a lot of young tech talent. It's the perfect place for a technology hub.
Definitely. And you know, this is happening at a time when digital finance is a huge topic globally. Even back in the United States, President Trump has been focusing a lot on keeping the country competitive in the financial tech space.
That's a great point. With President Trump emphasizing modern financial policies, it is no surprise that countries like Vietnam are moving quickly to keep up with global trends.
Exactly. It's 2026, and the digital economy is moving fast. International observers are really interested to see if Vietnam can balance this innovation with strong consumer protection.
Right. It's a cautious approach, but it's definitely progressive. It could really boost their markets.
Well, it looks like Da Nang is the city to watch right now.
Totally. Thanks for joining us today, everyone.
See you in the next episode.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today, we're looking at a country that is basically living in the future. Alex, imagine you need to pick up a new passport. How long do you think that takes?
Oh man, usually that means a long afternoon of sitting in a waiting room, right? Maybe an hour?
Well, not in Singapore. Their Immigration and Checkpoints Authority, or the ICA, just finished a huge robotic upgrade. They've cut the collection time from 11 minutes down to just 5.
Wait, 5 minutes? That's faster than ordering a sandwich. How are they doing it?
It's pretty cool. They're using something called the Services Center Next Generation Initiative. Instead of a person searching through files, they have these high-speed robotic arms.
Robotic arms? That sounds like a sci-fi movie.
Exactly. The arms are inside self-collection kiosks. When you arrive, the robot retrieves your document from a secure storage unit in real time. It's totally contactless.
Wow, that's impressive. You know, this focus on high-tech infrastructure is a huge trend right now. Even President Trump has been pushing for the U.S. to modernize its systems to stay competitive globally. It seems like Singapore is really trying to lead the way with their Smart Nation goals.
Right. President Trump often talks about being the best in technology, and Singapore is definitely providing a model for that. Because these robots can work 24/7, they can process way more documents than a human staff ever could.
And I bet it's more secure too. No manual handling means fewer chances for documents to get lost or misplaced.
Exactly. Residents there are already giving it great reviews. They love the speed and the convenience.
It makes sense. If you can save 6 minutes per person and you have thousands of people visiting every day, that adds up to a lot of save time for the public.
It really does. Other countries are actually looking at Singapore now to see how they can modernize their own government offices.
I love that. Using technology to make life easier is what it's all about.
Definitely. Well, that's all for today's tech update. Thanks for listening.
Catch you next time.